It's Sunday. We're back. Welcome to the red, the white, the blue football therapy session. And if you need a bit of cheering up tonight, just think of the lad who travelled all the way from Texas, flew into Heathrow, got the train up to Manchester, arrived at Burnley for the lunchtime game today, only to find that the Spurs game was snowed off. Just one of those little wonders of Twitter when you're actually finding somebody who's had probably a worse weekend than probably anybody out there. So just bear that in mind tonight. Anyway, let's welcome in Stephen and Charlie, who are still gloating after Liverpool's amazing win yesterday. So well done, guys.
Of course, another 4-0.
Yeah, and also, Charlie, you should be celebrating as well because you had Jamie Vardy in your fantasy football team this week, and you were head-to-head against me, and Vardy was the person who actually swung it for you. So, yeah, you get the 3 points.
He's got to pay off once in a while, right? He's got to slacking a little bit, and he made it up this week.
He certainly did.
Jamie Vardy. I was actually thinking of putting him in my fantasy league as well, but I never ever did. And to
my youngest lad has had him in all season, then took him out last week, and then he scored 2 today. It's the story of his life. It really is.
Brilliant. So, what's this story you just said in the prologue there, John, about someone's come from Texas over to?
Yeah, a lad was flying. He flew across to see Spurs. Right, Spurs, lifelong Spurs fan. Left Texas, arrived in Heathrow this morning, jumped on a train or planes to get to Manchester. Arrived in Manchester, then got to Burnley, and then he tweeted the fact that I've just found out I've made it to the game just in time, and I've now found out that they've cancelled the game. And you're just like, that is just one of those moments you just wonder why we are all fanatical football fans, isn't it? You know, it's just.
How far is Burnley from Man City?
It's not far. It's not far.
Man City played, right? I saw them. They're shoveling off the field in halftime. Whatever. It's like
Burnley's the ground at Burnley's on the top of a hill, and so whereas in the centre of Manchester, and they've got, I think at the Etihad they've got undersoil heating as well, which just about kept that game going. But the very Turf Moor is one of these grounds that is just so exposed to the weather that it could be, the rest of the country could be basked in sunshine, and you go to Turf Moor, you'll need a winter coat, a hat, and gloves, just to keep yourself warm in the middle of September. But today it was.
The right of the hills, like you say, John, aren't they? The right, like, not far. Yeah. I'd say probably. From Manchester City Centre to Burnley City Centre, you're probably talking about a 30-minute drive on a clear road.
Yeah.
You're not talking a great amount of distances here, but where Manchester sits, it sits right at the bottom of the Pennines, which is a mountain range that runs right through the spine of England. Yeah. And Burnley sits right in that mountain range, So they might be high. It's like here in Cumbria where I live, I could be where I sit here on the west coast of Cumbria. I'd have nothing. And in fact, the surrounding areas have nothing. But if you go up to the hills, it'll be thick in snow. It's just one of them weird geographical things that happens. But I was talking, going back to what you were saying here about this lad who's come, or the girl, whoever it is, that's come over from Texas over. I don't know if you've noticed what I put in the text before to Nick, and I said, I feel sorry for the fans who had to make all that cheery, and Nick said, well, I don't, ha ha ha. Really not Texas, really, so I really do feel for them. Well, Harrison, thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah. I think we lost track there. So where do you want to start? Where should we start? Should we start with today's game? So, John, do you want to have your rant first, or do you want to save it for a bit?
I'm not going to rant. Everton were well beaten. Everton were well beaten off Brentford, and I could see it coming. I just feel that the current run of fixtures that Everton have got is today we should have been looking at getting some points on the board. And I think very quickly, unless Everton change you can't even change the playing style. They've got that many players that are out injured anyway. Until Dominic Calvert-Lewin comes back, I think we're really stuffed for anybody playing up front. I just feel that the reaction of the fans at the end of the game today was such that there is an animosity building within the club, and that's not good when you've got the following fixtures of Liverpool, Arsenal, away at Palace, away at Chelsea, and then home to Leicester. And then Boxing Day, we've got away at Burnley, and then we're at home to Newcastle on the 30th of December. We've not won since September. And
I know.
That's shocking. It's
tough, yeah.
And it's coming out in, and I know we've spoken about this before, unfortunately, because of Rafa's past history, when things are going badly, he's going to be the focal point for a lot of the abuse. But it's the players on the park. It's just like there's too many players there that have just been sort of mollycoddled. They're not prepared to just sort of put in a boot where it matters and stuff like that. We've got players going missing far too often during games, and I really fear myself for the Derby game this week. Like it or not, Wednesday night is not going to be pretty, and for all as I'm an Evertonian, I don't even think I can watch on Wednesday, because you guys are just, if it's anything less than 5, I think I'll be quite happy.
Ooh, really?
And that's the way it is. Yeah, there's just nothing at Everton. There's no spark. There's nobody taking the game by the scruff of the neck. We need Richarlison back. We need Dominic Calvert-Lewin back. I was frustrated today at the fact that he didn't make any subs. He brought Demarai Gray, who got stretched off last week and we thought was going to be out for a few weeks. He's not. But there's 2 young lads on the bench who can play centre forward, and he persisted with Solomon Rondon, who, for want of a better phrase, can't hit a barn door. I think just give these young lads a chance up front, because actually Ellis Sims and the lad Dobbin as well, they're banging the goals in for under 23s. Give them a chance. Let's see what they're capable of. And to chuck them in at the Derby it's not going to be the game. Away at Brentford, I thought was an opportunity to actually just gamble a little bit, and unfortunately Rafa went a little bit too. I felt he went a little bit too sort of negative on that front. But hey, you've got to back the manager, because it's not him. It's the players on the pitch are not good enough, and they're not good enough by a long stretch. And until that changes, we're going to be in a dogfight for the rest of the season. I've already, like you would do, I've looked through teams that are, pick 3 teams that you think are worse than you, and that's quite a shocking indictment as to where I'm at the minute. It's not good. It's not good. But
I think if you look at it, like, hi Sarah, welcome in. I think if you look at it in the lens of here and the now, John, which is sad thing is a lot of football is run by the here and now.
Yeah.
You would look at it as like, it's all doom and gloom for Everton at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Because you haven't won. You didn't win in October. You're now not won in November. You look at like you said, look at the run of fixtures you've got in December. It doesn't look great. In fact, it looks scary. One thing I would say to you is, don't count on the Merseyside derby as being a foregone conclusion, because Liverpool are beating people 4-0, 5-0 at the minute. It's the derby. Form goes out the window in them games. Always has done, always will do. So, trust me, I don't care what form Liverpool are in, what form Everton in. I'm still nervous for Wednesday myself as a Liverpool fan. But moving on from that, I think, you've got this little bit of a window, the here and the now, where everything looked doomed and gloomed and that. But there's so many factors in this, John. You've got a stupid amount of injuries on a small squad that you had anyway. Your second depth wasn't strong anyway, and you're losing your strong players. You've got Richarlison, who was suspended today, wasn't he? So is he not back on Wednesday?
He'll be back for Wednesday.
He'll be back for Wednesday.
Yeah.
Just in time for Trent to stick his 6 foot in on the game. But you know what I mean? It's like I said last week, I am a Liverpool fan, right? My biggest rivals are obviously Everton and then Man United. But I don't want Everton and Man United to do poorly. I want them to do well, because if I'm watching Liverpool fight for titles, I'd rather watch them fighting for titles like Everton and United than anyone else. It just spices it up for me. So there's that. So I want Everton to do well. I really do, and I say that from the bottom of my heart. I really do. But and I feel for Rafa. I'm with the mood you going there with this, because it does look like Rafa might be, he might take the fall for this, and it's not his fault. I don't see
the problem there, though, Stephen. We're back into that boat of who else comes in after him.
Exactly.
Because actually, you need somebody who can actually rebuild Everton as a club on the playing front from the ground upwards. And actually, we've been in the very, very guilty of, I think you said it last week, is the fact he's still playing. He's dealing with players that were bought prior to Allardyce turning up. He's dealing with the dross that's actually been there. And unfortunately, somebody needs to sort it out. It's just not a case of changing the manager and these players are going to suddenly get better. Alex Iwobi needs to go somewhere else, and I would gladly pay his taxi to go back down to London and go to Arsenal, and he could go for free. He offers nothing to that team whatsoever, and there's others as well. But to be honest, we need. I go back a few years. We've been in a situation before, and I think when Joe Royle took over from Mike Walker, and we were absolutely rotten. We were really rotten to the core. The team that was on the pitch was just totally. It's very similar to just now. Just had no passion, no self-belief. And Joe Royle turned around and said, "We just need the dogs of war." And it was like Joe Parkinson, Lee Carsley, and Tommy Gravison, and they dug us out of a hole that season. And we need something similar. And I think Decore and Allen could do that. We just need someone to score the goals, because you're not going to win games if you don't score goals. It's as simple as that.
It is. And Charlie, you can come in and have a say on this as well. I just wanted to say one thing. You mentioned Decore there, the injuries you have. There's one person in my fantasy league that I haven't got rid of with them being injured, and that's Decore, because he scored me a lot of points. So this guy needs to get back and get my fantasy league going. Well, I'll just say this as well. It was a bit of a low blow from my wife there, because you said who else comes in, and she's put that comment in there.
I missed it. I
put it on the Steve Bruce. It's just.
Oh yeah. Sarah, do you know something? That's not even funny. Not even funny. Yeah. Could you imagine that? Oh my word.
Yeah, no, it's. I'm with you, John. I feel it. But Charlie, what's your thoughts on this and what's going on there? What do you think?
Well, I'm hoping that John is right. First of all, that we win by at least 5. But I wouldn't be surprised if Everton. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up 0-0 or Everton pulls one out of left field, because whenever we're running good and other teams are running bad and they come, we play against something weird always happens. Either the coach always knows how to play us exactly right and they do a great job and we end up scoring nothing, or something else happens and it ends up not being the train wreck that you're expecting. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a big win or anything like that. I'm hoping it is, because obviously whenever we have these games where we're winning 5-0, 4-0, we have I always want them to score more, because that Man City is running it up, Chelsea's going to run it up, and it's going to come down when it's so close, especially the last few seasons, when it's so close, and it could possibly come down to goal differential at some point, you know.
Yeah,
And I just want them to score as much as possible, not to be a jerk, but because Man City can put 6 up on any night that they want. You know, they can get. So we have to compete with that, not just with the wins.
With you on that. So what we'll do is we'll move on to. We'll keep with today's game day. So let's have a look at Man United.
Why not?
Chelsea.
Yeah, I want to know. I missed the Man United game, right? And all of a sudden, it's like I'm seeing they actually did they turn up for the Chelsea game or what? What happened there? I don't know.
In the second half, first half, they were absolutely annihilated in the first half. Man United,
Yeah.
If it wasn't for De Gea, Chelsea were out of sight in the first half. They were out of sight. If it wasn't for De Gea.
I think as well, Stephen. I think the other side as well. United went with a plan. They dropped Ronaldo to the bench, which I think is a good thing.
Ronaldo was benched, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
they give a reason?
Just not too much.
Did they give a reason? Was he ticked off?
Because he's passed it, and the fact that he's actually upset the whole rhythm of that team. I think that might be it. And then they chose to basically they played 8 at the back.
Weren't they 3-0 before Ronaldo came over? They were doing well before he came over.
Sure.
Yeah, they should have maybe brought Harry. Harry would have been a better fit.
United look good value for that today, and I must admit, Chelsea could have won by 3 or 4. It was one of those days. They gifted United the goal. Jorginho had a nightmare of just trying to, in a way, I think he described on the telly it was being a bit too arrogant. But I'd much prefer to think that it wasn't arrogance. It's just the fact that he thought he could play with his foot rather than headering it. Yeah. And he just gave the ball away. It was just one of them. It happens, and it's it's one of them. And then Chelsea, they had the chance to win it right at the end. And if Rudiger had scored, Charlie, my fantasy score would have been absolutely through the roof. And he missed. I was more annoyed at that than anything else.
Do you know what? I don't know what was the bigger waste. Miss was that one or Aubameyang yesterday, but we'll get on to Arsenal. Yeah. I'm with you, John. I think United in the second half particularly were good for the draw. The goal was probably one of the stupidest goals to concede I've seen in the Premier League for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean, what he was trying to bring it. I don't know whether he thought he had to touch a Messi, to bring the ball down left foot and just think it's going to just bounce and go where he wants. He just bounced off him and straight in. United got it. There was no other result from that. But I thought in the second half United brought it as well. John, I thought they were.
Yeah,
sharp. To be honest with you, the strange decisions were still there though, because he brought Rashford off, who I thought was the most dangerous player on the pitch for United that half. First half, you didn't see him; he wasn't there. Yeah. Second half, he was just causing mayhem down that left side, and then he took him off. I can't remember. I think it was after Ronaldo come on. He took him off, but Ronaldo come on, and you might as well have not put him on there because he just didn't do anything. He's lazy. He's not someone who's going to work for the team. It's all about Ronaldo for him. It was a bad decision to bring him to the club, I think. So I'm with you on that.
I totally agree. I think he's the one who's upset the balance in that dressing room, in my eyes, and I don't know. It's one of them where you actually believe that United possibly. In fact, it was interesting if you saw the Sky Sports coverage. Roy Keane, and if you get some, have a check on Twitter. There is a clip of Jamie Carragher and Roy Keane having the most incredible ding dong after the game, talking about exactly this point. Whereas Keane was trying to say you're bringing someone like Ronaldo into the club just as it's a nice thing to do, and he's come to win a couple of trophies, stuff like that. But Carragher was having a go at Roy Keane in so much of the fact that you buy Ronaldo, and given the fact they finished second last year, you're trying to kick the club on. You're buying him because you want to win the league. You're not buying him just to win a trophy or anything like that. You want to win the league, and he's not offered that kind of solution. So yeah, go and check it out. It makes for absolute hilarious viewing. I think Gary Neville has retweeted it with him watching it, just laughing his bottom off because he found it hilarious at the two of them, and they were getting more and more irate. And the lad who presents the show says, "We might finish this off in the car park." So
you can just imagine, can't you? You know, I have not seen it, so I'm going to go and watch it. But you can just imagine it. House like Jamie Carragher, as the Irishman, like you can imagine it getting pretty easily. Yeah.
And the thing was, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was sat between the two of them, and he was finding it hilarious because he knew that it was just the noise was getting louder and the voices were raising to that really annoying, high-pitched sound of two blokes having a proper argument. It really was. It was one of those little feisty encounters, and you're thinking, Big Roy's just gonna lamp him in a minute. And I think Carragher knew exactly what he was doing. He was just winding him up completely because I think Carragher was right. I think Carragher had actually found that he's probably one up on Keane on the argument front for the first time in a long time.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to go and check that out, John. I didn't see that.
Well, it was good. It was good. Just on another game as well. Man City today, what possibly was, I think, was a very tricky fixture for them. And they had West Ham at home. The weather was appalling, as we knew with the Burnley situation. As Charlie had said, you know, it was a real threat to the game. You know, they delayed the second half by 10 minutes just so that he could get the pitch cleared. And even after the game, Guardiola came out and actually thanked his head groundsman and his team just for actually getting the game to a finish. You know, and I think that was quite a telling part of it. City didn't allow West Ham to play, which is the way City play the game. But 2-1 finished, but I think City will be upset at the fact that they conceded a goal in the 4th minute of injury time to get rid of the clean sheet. But again, I think you mentioned at the start of the show, it's just like City just keep looking ominous. But you write them off, don't you? You write them off and you think, City are not at the races. And yet, the second in the league, they're a point ahead of Liverpool, but now a point behind Chelsea, having played the same amount of games. And again, today, the squad rotation and the goal scorers, Gundogan scored, and he's not scored for a long time. Who, again, going back to fantasy football, he was a massive scorer last season. But Fernandinho, who's been on the bench for a long time for City and has been seemingly rested, comes back into the team, he scores. And City have just got that depth. They've got that ability to sort of give some of these players a rest. You know, there's been all kinds of shenanigans going on about your man Grealish in the press as about who he's dating, not dating, or maybe wants to date, or whatever. And so suddenly he's not played the last 3 games. It's like, and it's one of them things. It's just like, go sort yourself out, son. And then we'll get you back in the team once all of that's gone. And it's just such a lovely thing to see where City, they don't need that sideshow. They don't need that sort of that baggage that comes from sort of the media and sort of the newspapers. And so he just rotates the squad, shoves somebody else in his place, and cracks on from there. It's so simple. Yeah, they've got the squad to be able to do it, and I think that for them is the biggest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I'd just like to segue a little bit into a little side subject while we're on that with City and that. Is City have definitely got the deepest squad in the whole of the Premier League. and they got this embarrassment of riches. They really have. I think Liverpool are the second deepest, and then you probably go into Chelsea then after that. But there was something trending on Twitter earlier on, like Liverpool and City, and the main conversation was, Chelsea's result today with United. They struggled to get the goal. When I watched it, they were knocking the door down. They were huffing and puffing. And to be honest with you, it was a bit like the wolf had met the brick wall. Do you know what I mean? That's what it looked like. And they didn't have the answers. And they actually brought up a stat during the game of most goals scored by defenders. Chelsea 13, Streets ahead of the next team with 5.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's the issue, right? You've got Lukaku on the bench. You don't trust him. You spent all this money on him. You don't trust him. You've got Werner, who actually had a howler today. That goal, that shot he had. So you know what I'm on about? It was in the second half.
Yeah.
He tried to kill it at the far post. If Verti went out for a corner, I'm probably exaggerating.
It went for the throw or something.
Some way, So, and they've also got a couple of injuries, like Chilwell's out, you know what I mean? And they like that wing back kind of system. And you were looking at them, well, how are they going to operate? Talking about fantasy league and stuff like that. I've got James in my team. He scored me a lot of points this year. And he's doing that wing back on one side, Chilwell on the other. And he wasn't really up to the game today either, because they were having to play a different formation, different style of play. Yet they were knocking on the door. They would. For me, in the first half, they should have been out of sight, and that's where Chelsea are going to lack is the strength and depth. Are they really going to be able to compete with Liverpool and City? Liverpool can compete with City, but if City really go at it, I don't think anyone competes with them. That's why I've got them from the start of the season as champions, because I don't think anyone competes with them. You need things to go wrong with City for it to go right. But I think Liverpool are more equipped to challenge City than Chelsea are. And I think that was shown today. And I think that's probably why it was trending on Twitter. I don't know, guys, maybe you'd agree with me, maybe you'd disagree with me, but what's your thoughts on that?
Well, one of us is going to be right, I think, because we all have each different at the top. We each have a different team, right? You have me at Liverpool.
Charlie, we could all be wrong and we have another Leicester here. Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I don't know. Chelsea has looked dangerous all season, I think, and it's their manager who is a huge threat. By the way, just to take a step back and talk United for a second, because I hear a lot of the next manager at United is going to be the old mentor of Klopp and the guy at Chelsea. Yeah. So I was mentioning like a couple of weeks ago, I was saying you either go after those guys as assistant managers, right? Because they know the system.
Yeah.
But they're going the other way. They're going after their mentor, so bring them. Maybe they'll have a chance at Man United. I'm not sure. But
to be honest, Charlie, the lad was it Ralph Rangnick or whatever? I think it's Rangnick.
Yeah.
But he seems to have got himself a really good deal here, because not only has he got himself the job until the end of the season, but he's also booked himself in for 2 extra years as a sort of an overseer of the club. And I thought, well, do you know something? Because they were basically looking at somebody coming in short term, and I don't think anyone was biting. And so they've gone for Ralph Rangnick, and he's been very astute. That if he's going to get a sack or they're going to get rid of him, he's got himself boxed in for 2.5 years there. And I thought that's a very clever, very, very clever way of doing it. So, impressed with that.
Yeah.
There we go. So, all we're going to do is carry on with that, though, Charlie, because actually you put that to us at least 2 weeks ago.
I was thinking along those lines, because that's what we do. That's what they do in the NFL over here in America. You go after the Super Bowl champions and you go after their assistant coaches to come because they know the system of a winning team. A lot of them, especially Belichick's assistants, they end up failing miserably usually at other teams. So I don't know how good it depends on the assistant, but I think if this guy did, like I said, mentor, Klopp and what is it, Tuchel? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Then I would say you would think he had a good chance. He has a good chance, but then again, what does he have to work with? Does he have that
This Cristiano Ronaldo to deal with?
Yeah, exactly. Who does he have to work with? Are they willing to run? Because it's all Gegenpress thing over there in Germany, right?
I think the other side, and the other side to that is I still feel that Chelsea have got tactically a much better squad. Yeah, they struggled against United today just to get the goals. They've got Lukaku coming back from injury. I still feel that they're strong. I think they are stronger than we give them credit for. And I still think we're very much. It's a 3-horse race, and I think at the minute Liverpool are in a position of strength. Now I'm going to just very quickly just mention Leicester. Leicester played Watford today, which was lovely because Claudio Ranieri, who's the new boss at Watford, went back to the place where he won the Premier League for Leicester. But your man Vardy was on fire. Vardy was having his party today, and so was James Maddison. Maddison scored and had 2 assists, and that's something we've not seen from Leicester for a good few weeks. Leicester seem to be back, and they seem to have just stepped it up a little bit. And I don't know. It's just I wasn't expecting it because I thought Watford would offered a little bit more, but it's intriguing to see that Leicester again are just sort of they drifted through, certainly through November, and I think they've now just sort of put a stop to that. And I don't know, it's just one of them ones. They should be higher in the league than they actually are, and the 3 points today.
Yeah, they are 10th. Yeah, we stand at 10 right now. Wow.
Yeah, they didn't win for the whole month of November. I don't think they won for 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
And to win 4-2 today, and Vardy getting a couple and being contributing into another one. And you had what's the other guy?
It's a return of Maddison.
Yeah.
Maddison picked up a real bad injury at the back end of last season and he never looked like the same player again. And hopefully, for the sake of Leicester fans, when he plays, he was distracted in the summer by talking about Arsenal, and somebody must have come and kicked him up the backside and actually just sort of said, "Look, this is are you a Leicester player or are you not?" So it's good. It's good to see a good win that for them today. But I'm skirting around the major issue of the whole weekend, which, believe it or not, is not Liverpool. Although you'll come to them in a minute. Did anybody watch the Brighton game yesterday? Brighton were playing Leeds.
Yeah, I watched it.
So at the end of the game, the Brighton fans booed the team off the pitch. Right now, they drew. Right, okay, can deal with that. They haven't won in 5. I can deal with that. But Brighton are 9th in the Premier League. They were 8th yesterday, and United's point has just edged them above. What do the fans want? I just don't get it. And I think Graham Potter came on the TV afterwards last night, and he's just like, I don't quite understand what the reaction was at the end of the game. And I think he was a little bit bemused, a little bit angry, a little bit let down. But as fans, what would you be wanting from if you're a fan of Brighton? What do they want? I don't quite understand, because they're playing a really good system of football. They're not going to get beat by many. And then yesterday, I think Leeds did half decent. Brighton just never managed to capitalise on the chances that they had. But to boo your team off, I'm thinking, goodness me, where are we at? they should try come into Goodison and see what happens at Everton. Because actually, I'd be quite happy sat in Brighton's place at ninth with 18 points. That'll do for me. But they got booed off, and he was I think he was livid. So don't know if you guys watched it, but it was weird. One of them weird ones.
Brighton getting relegated, so I'm way off.
Yeah.
But they did start off pretty. They started off pretty hot this season, and then they've gone down. You wonder if it set off the expectations of the fans maybe a little too high than they should have been.
Maybe.
Yeah, could be right. Could be right.
At the same time, they're not going through the same turmoil as they was last season. So maybe they should be thinking, "Oh, well, at least I'm not going through what I did last season." You've not won in fact, that's fine. But you've had such an amazing start of the season. Graham Potter seems to have got it right. He's got the system right and it's working. But what the problem is because of the quality player isn't high enough, teams are getting onto them quicker and being able to outmaneuver them because the players aren't enough. For me, John, I don't know what the boom was about. It was Brighton Leeds, wasn't it, yesterday?
Yeah.
So I was going to come. Something I've got in my notes here about this is Leeds looked awful. In that it was like they didn't look good, and I fear for them. But looking at it from that point of view, John, where they've booed at the end, it's like, well, come on, Brighton, be realistic here. If you get mid-table, you've improved from last year. That's your improvement. Is mid-table improvement. Yeah. Just because you were in the European places to begin with, and I think you're right, Charlie. I think they've overstated or overthought what they can actually achieve this year, and thinking, they've had a good start. Are they going to get the European places? No, that was never going to happen. You're always going to drop off at some point. What the thing is now is to maintain your position in the mid-table. If you can maintain that mid-table, then you've improved and you've had a good season. So booing, I don't get. No,
I don't either. It's just it's a weird one, isn't it? It's a weird one, and it just again comes back. It comes back to where we started the show, because they've got a really good manager. But if the feeling within the club becomes toxic, then it suddenly seems to be that the manager's the one who's at fault. Yesterday, Brighton could have had 3 or 4 goals. It's just Trossard just decided I don't think he'd either put his boots on the wrong feet or something. And him and Maupay just missed a load of chances. It happens. Just as a fan, you've got to accept that's what happens. Some days and then move on.
Well, maybe Grealish has gone after his girlfriend. Who knows?
Brilliant. The two sets of fans, it's the Leeds fans that should be worrying off that game yesterday, because I just thought Leeds were way off the park. Fabinho didn't look at his best either. It just looked disjointed from Leeds at times. And they're just above the relegation zone. So even me and Charlie's prediction of them being in like the middle of the table is looking a bit way off. We could be having to swap Leeds
to finish.
Right? In the bottom 3. Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't look good for them. And I'll tell you who.
Again, Leeds have got a lot of injuries. And what was interesting yesterday. And I really like Calvin Phillips. I think he's a wonderful midfield player. He's a type of player I'd love to see in a blue shirt at Everton. I think he'd do a really good job for any team. But he's not frightened to stick his foot in where it hurts and stuff. But he got hooked at half time, and Bielsa obviously saw something yesterday, and he thought, "No, we're going to take it." Hooking him at half time, and I don't think Calvin Phillips was too happy about it. And I think, having watched, I think it was Match of the Day last night, I think it'd be first down to knock on Bielsa's door in the morning when they're at training. But you've got to make decisions as a manager, and you're not going to be frightened of making those decisions. And I think Bielsa did it because he obviously seen something where they could get a point, and I think for Leeds it was important that they got a point yesterday. They're really starved of starved of a lot of points. They just want points on the board. So
I think another team is struggling as well. I was talking about teams struggling is Newcastle. Did you see the game yesterday with the Newcastle game?
I did, yeah. But they're in a similar position to Everton. You're stuck with the players that you've got. So Eddie Howe is only got Steve Bruce's team in front of him. He's going to need to buy players in January. And I think there's probably an awareness amongst the new owners at Newcastle that actually, if you get relegated this season, it's not a bad thing because you come back stronger and you'll be able to have 2 transfer windows and again get rid of some of the dead wood that's in at Newcastle. The lad that Almiron didn't start yesterday, he came on a sub and he used to play for Atlanta in the MLS. Looked absolutely cracking prospect, but he's just not quite got it. His finishing leaves a lot to be desired, and his choice of pass leaves a lot. And they paid a lot of money for him. So it's a weird one. It's a weird one.
I kind of scunched my face there, John, when you said the situation at Newcastle same as Everton. I thought it's nowhere near the same because you're so further up the tail. They're looking at relegation. Look, like you could easily get dragged.
I'm still thinking of that sort of same thing. No, I think as well, though, guys. Yeah. Eddie Howe's up against it there, and let's face facts.
Yeah,
and it's not going to be of his making. You've also got to remember Norwich, who previously we'd all written off and were rooted to the bottom of the table. Charlie's new favourite team this season. There we go.
They've gone 3. They've gone 3 without a loss now.
Yeah, and that is just so important of turning around a squad that previously they weren't quite sure what they were doing, and all the new managers managed to do is just playing Billy Gilmore, who's on loan from Chelsea. I think that's the one thing that he's changed, and he's just basically they're playing without fear. We mentioned last week about Cantwell had started and got hooked after 45. He was on the bench again yesterday, and then Kieran Dowell was the same. He's another player who comes in and out of that team, and he's on the bench, and obviously they're on to something. And I think this is the bit where you see, Dean Smith's gone in there. He wants them to play in a certain way, which he had with Villa, and suddenly they're not far off safety, which is saying something, because I think the likes of Everton, I'll say it again, just have to look over their shoulder a little bit more closely. And I think Burnley as well, having not played today against Spurs, that game actually Burnley could have done with playing, because if they'd have beaten Spurs on a pitch and in weather conditions that were quite poor, they would have then taken themselves above Leeds. It's that whole momentum thing, isn't it, for a lot of these clubs? And I think Brentford with their win today, that takes them on as well. It's just we've got to keep looking at how this sort of affects everything that goes along. Moving from the Newcastle game, I would say Arsenal. I know I said it last week. Arsenal look brilliant at the minute. They're just exciting to watch.
Saka was on a different planet yesterday. But before we go on to that, Harrison's asked the question, going back to the United stuff.
Yeah.
So, say if Ronaldo left, would they still get money for him even though they didn't sell him? So what I think Harrison's asking here is, what if Ronaldo just left off his own accord?
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to talk from a real nerdy point of view, because I negotiate contracts and I deal with contract law and stuff. If Ronaldo's in a contract with Manchester United, if Ronaldo just left off, yes, Man United will get money, but directly from Ronaldo, because he'd be in breach of contract and he'd have to put them back in that place. So just to answer that question, yes, they would get money, but they would have to go through the courts with it. But good question anyway. But go on, John. What are you saying?
No, it's just that Arsenal really impressing me at the moment. They've got what looks to be a system that's actually exciting to watch. They just they're playing without fear at the minute, and it's taken a long time for that to actually happen. And I must admit, the Smith Rowe looks the part, so does Saka. It's making the old-fashioned rear guard of Arsenal of Lacazette and Aubameyang sort of look a little bit past it, because
Aubameyang was awful.
He just missed it.
So we talk about that goal. So we talk about. Let's just concentrate on that for a minute, because that for me was the miss of all misses.
Yeah.
Did you see it, Charlie? Did you get to see it?
Yeah, it's like a foot to the right, right? I was happy to see it. Yeah, miss.
It was. Do you know what? It was harder to miss.
Yeah.
What he was thinking, what he was doing, maybe he just had the rush of the blood to the head or something. I don't know, but that was awful. But going back to your comments there about Arsenal being good, I just want to reiterate what I said before. Saka was unbelievable.
But that's the story.
Go on, Charlie. Go on.
That's the story of Arsenal, though, right? They look brilliant against the lower teams, but then you put them against Chelsea, put them against Liverpool, they fall apart. So I am not convinced that they are a top 4 team, because again, it's just almost, I don't know if they get nerves or if they're just outclassed at the top 5. But yeah, they look brilliant against they're more relaxed against the lower 5 or 6 teams, and they look a lot better than what they actually are, I think.
But,
I don't know how much credit I would give them yet, though.
Yeah, they just look entertaining. But I take that point on board totally. You're looking at a Newcastle side that are lacking resilience and lacking ideas. And it was interesting. Saka went off injured after it was about just after 60 minutes, and then Martinelli came on, scored with his second touch, and it was just a beautiful goal that Martinelli scored.
Saka looks like he's 10 years old, doesn't he?
Oh, it does. He certainly does.
So young. He looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I think that's the thing, that Arteta's got something to play with there, and he's got young lads coming through that are actually they're really pushing other players in the squad along. There's a lad playing left back, was it Tavares, who was outstanding. But he's keeping Kieran Tierney out of the squad, and Tierney is a Scotland international. Was arguably at points of last season one of Arsenal's most reliant players, and he's now keeping him out of the team. It's brilliant to see, and actually I probably have to swallow a little bit of pride as well. The goalkeeper Ramsdale is actually putting a shift in as well. He just seems to have found his right place, and having previously been relegated with Bournemouth, maybe he's just found a place that he's happy as well. So time will tell. Time will tell. But
without Ramsdale, they're down in 11th or 12th place. Ramsdale's on fire this season.
He is, isn't he?
He's on fire. He's saving at least 2 miracle goals a game.
Yeah,
especially against us. I remember I was like, holy cow, this guy's Spider-Man. It's crazy.
Yeah. What's interesting with him though, and this is why I think I picked up on this at the back end of last season. He gets relegated with, was it Sheffield United? He got relegated with Bournemouth, and you get to the stage and you're thinking, actually, is that his bit? And he's actually come to Arsenal, and he's actually he just looks a real good prospect now, and he's still a young lad. And I think that's what's exciting, because if you're looking at the England national team, he's going to be the one that's going to push Pickford a little bit more for the number 1 shirt. And every goalkeeper needs that. Every goalkeeper needs that competition. So No, that was good. Good to see Arsenal. Good to see Arsenal back in it as well.
I know
do you know,
you said that Newcastle was struggling and they're in danger, but I just thought in that first half, I think I put it in the comments in our chat yesterday, it looked a different Newcastle. They looked like they were having a go, but I still think the quality isn't there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm with you. I think Eddie Howe's got a real job on his hands there to do that.
Yeah.
But also on top of that is you can understand why they've gone with Eddie Howe, because I think they understand they're going to get relegated this year. And Eddie Howe has experience of going down to the Championship and bringing teams back up into the Premier League. He's got that under his belt. He knows what to do. So I think it was a real clever move from the Newcastle owners there. Rather than trying to throw money at a big-name manager who got relegated and struggled to get them back up, they've gone, no, he's going to do the job. He's going to go down and he'll get us up. Or he could get them out of relegation. I don't see it.
Yeah. Just very quickly, we're not spoken about Villa winning away. Stevie G seems to have waved his magic wand over all things at Villa for now.
Seems to.
Yeah. So that's a good one. But we've not really mentioned Liverpool. I'm just very aware that time will sort of pass us by. And I actually watched an awful lot of the Liverpool game yesterday. Not expecting much from Southampton. Southampton seem to have a record of not doing well at Anfield, and that's over many years. I think even go back to a time as a kid, and you always knew when Southampton were in the 70s. You always knew if Southampton were coming, Liverpool were getting 3 points, dead easy. Liverpool looked again on fire yesterday. You guys must just love this.
Yeah, I do. Definitely, one of those Jota goals should have been Salah's. If Jota didn't score that first goal, Salah was right behind him. His foot was like 2 inches right behind, So, but they're really good goals there. They're hungry. Even Van Dijk, being technical with that shot that he had, it was perfect. How many chances did he get a game? It's like you wonder how they don't get rusty or don't get their nerves up. And you get those, and then you have like Henderson sometimes, who should have a lot more poise. He blasted over the net, 20 yards. It's like, come on, dude, get over the ball and back to your basics. But but the big story I think at Liverpool is the Robinson Tsimikas battle, because Robertson, I think he finally pulled his head out his butt and said, okay, I better start moving or I'm going to lose my job. And he had a great game yesterday. I was happy to see that, and happy to see him actually.
Maybe he watched us last week, because we've said about how good was it Tsimikas. Tsimikas really just looked absolutely brilliant last week, and I actually think Robertson was lucky at being the starting 11 yesterday. Given what he'd done previously, but actually he like you said, Charlie, he stepped up and he put in an international class lesson in how to play that left wing position and how to really make the opposition right back be fearful of all the runs that you're making. And it was what's really telling for me is you look at the goal scorers yesterday. So you've got Jota with 2, Thiago, and then Van Dijk, right? But on the same pitch, Salah didn't get a goal. Neither did Mane. And actually, that's been that upset me, because I can see on Wednesday that Mane and Salah are going to be goal hungry. I think for the derby game. And the other one that really surprised me is he started with Henderson. And I think we were very astute. I think we mentioned that last week as well. Henderson has been injured. He's just been drip-fed back into that team. When Henderson plays, the team plays better. And what's lovely to see is just Thiago just looks superb. There's no weak spots I can see in that Liverpool side. I think they just look outstanding. I would love to see. a little like a little mini World Cup over Christmas of Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea just playing like a series of games against each other. Because up front, and I think we mentioned it earlier in the show, Chelsea just look a little bit short of a striker. City look as if they need a striker. But Liverpool have got so many options on that front three that they're the ones I actually feel the ones that goals don't seem to be the problem. And then yesterday, okay, you got Jota with his couple of goals, but then Van Dijk will step up and he'll score as well. Sorted. I think you guys must be sitting pretty. I've got to say.
Yeah, I'm over the moon with the way Liverpool are at the minute, John. And I'm not gonna hide behind the bush on that one. I think we're doing really, really well. I thought we were excellent yesterday. I think if it was you was to analyse the game properly, there'd be a couple of things where there was a couple of passes in midfield that went a bit wayward and stuff like that. But it's going to happen. People are human. But going into the Robertson Tsimikas one, that's a great thing to say because I was shocked that Robertson started yesterday. I'm thinking Tsimikas has done enough to put Robertson on the bench because Robertson's not been great. But Robertson comes on, he has this amazing game, he's unbelievable. But again, as well, Liverpool look like they're scoring. We in our this season, I don't know what's going on with Liverpool this season, but we seem to have changed tact because normally we don't go to the kill to score 4 or 5 goals in a game all the time. Yeah. We'd score 1 or 2 and be happy with the 1 or 2. Now seem to be happy with the 4 or the 5, which is great because our goal difference is above City and Chelsea. In fact, it's street side of Chelsea. And that's what I was getting at before near in the show is like with Chelsea's strength in depth is the attack is not there. So if they don't score, they're relying on the defence to not concede.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I think Chelsea's going to fall below the par. I still think it's a 3-horse race. Totally agree with you. All the way to the end. 3 horses right to the end, I think. That's going to be the story of the season.
And I think we mentioned it a few weeks ago, certainly at the start of even going back to September. We've mentioned this before as the fact that Liverpool's biggest problem is going to be the African Cup of Nations, which is in January. Now, given events this week where we've got an extra variant, we've got countries closing down, etc., we could be in a position where Salah, Mane, and Keita, instead of disappearing in January for the African Cup of Nations, if that gets cancelled, then I think Liverpool are in a position where they're not going to be penalised, certainly like I thought that they would have been. And I really feel it could be a real danger to City and Chelsea.
Yeah, I agree with that. Before I go on to respond to that, John, Sarah just said, he's just going back to the Robbo. I think he now knows he's got to prove himself even more now. And I think we all agree with that one. Yeah, that variant that's coming out of Africa now is, it's a bit of a strange one. It's a bit of a worrying one simply because of what's going to change. I know over here in the UK, I don't know what's going on over there in the US with this new variant, Charlie, but we've just banned all travel from the African nations to the UK. So even if you can get pinged now if you've been close to someone who's had this new variant, even if you've been fully vaxxed, you've got to isolate for 10 days. So I see all travel being banned completely. So I don't see how these guys can get to Africa at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that's going to play itself out. There has to be a duty of care taken by Liverpool Football Club and every club who, basically it's your employees, the country that you're going to represent and not your employee. And I think really, if you're going to play African Cup of Nations and you have to then come back to the UK and then spend 10 days in a hotel to quarantine and then keep going, then get back into training again, you could be upwards of 2 months. I can't see football clubs actually allowing that to actually happen. And I think it'd just be a case that you've got to protect your employee, and if that means telling your country that you can't go and play for them, then I actually feel that that's possibly where this will all end up. And no doubt it'll end up some kind of argument or another, at some point in the next couple of weeks, isn't it? You can see that coming.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for me, there's going to be these restrictions coming in from the government and stuff like that. What your opinions on that? It doesn't matter. It's what the government's coming out with. Personally, I think I've just had enough of talking about it, hearing about all that stuff. You know,
can I just change the subject because I know we're nearly out of time. But one of the things to just bear in mind for Wednesday night's Liverpool game is the fact that Origi always scores against Everton. So if you fancy a little 50 pence bet, right? Anytime goal scorer on Origi, it just none of the bookies are going to actually notice the fact that he still plays for Liverpool, right? And I can just see him coming on and scoring as he always does.
And he does it always in the most hilarious of ways too, you know.
Doesn't he just? Might be hilarious to you, but it's not to me.
Was it when I think we were going for I think it's the year we won the title. It bounced on the crossbar. Loaded it in. I think it was
poor Pickford.
As you can tell, I'm still inwardly laughing the backside off.
Of course you are, John. Of course you are.
Yeah,
so
right.
Please live on.
I'm going to do a shameless plug for next Sunday's show, right? Because actually, we're going to have 2 lots of fixtures to go through.
We are.
Everton don't play until the Monday night after that, so depending on how Arsenal on Monday. So great. My therapy will come from the Liverpool game.
Right,
and
okay.
I think if you want to put a date in your diary, join us next Sunday because I'm still going to be needing therapy. I tell you, I really am. I have not felt this bad about a derby game for so long, and it's not happening for me. Not happening for me. But yeah. If it's like I said at the start of the show, if it's less than 5, I'll take it.
I'm with Charlie. Do you know we get a 5? I'm ecstatic, but I don't see it happening. It's the derby. We could be we could be sat at the top of the league, unbeaten all season. You could be sat at the bottom of the league, not got 1 point or not a win or a draw all season. I still think they could come out and give us a game and win. It's it's the derby, John. It's like the old started saying is form goes out the window with these games.
I just hope no one gets hurt majorly, like past derbies. You know, let's leave Van Dijk out of everything. Let's not hurt any of our good players, please.
Yeah, as long as you couldn't let it lie on the ground, we're all right.
I've just had a message from my eldest son. He's just dug out the odds for Origi scoring anytime goal scorer. Origi's got the same odds as Sadio Mane for Wednesday night, and it's actually Jota has got better odds than Origi, and Origi's on the bench. So
you're joking.
Go explain that to me. Go explain that. There must be that Paddy Power must have some form of insider knowledge as to the Liverpool lineup for Wednesday.
Sarah's putting them in the chat there. Divock 11-4, anytime 6-4. It's like, come on, he's not even playing. When's the last time he played?
He's crackers, absolutely crackers.
Right, so we sign off and look forward to next week. We have got
just through the derby game, guys. Tell you.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to next week's.
I'm sure you are. Yeah. I'm not.
Look, we could be sat here and I'll be going, do you know what? We got beat by yous, but you know what? We won the next one, so we're all right. I can get over it then. Tune in next week when we'll be back again 9 o'clock. Sunday, 9 p.m. GMT, or is it 4 p.m. EST, Charlie?
4,
EST. Yeah. Join in, come and join us, get involved with the chat, and we'll see you next week.
and stuff.